It's the Exurbs, stupid. We're back for another look at Florida's Exurbs and why Florida has gone from a purple state to a red state. It's the Exurbs, stupid. Southwest Florida is an area that many people just drive through on Interstate 75, which was, by the way, built later than the other interstates in the state of Florida. It was built in the late 1970s and early 1980s south of Tampa. So the interstate is further east than it normally would have been because that's where they could acquire where land could be acquired at the time. So that puts the interstate further out from the populated areas, which now are filled with high density housing. In fact, Lee County, which is where Fort Myers is, but more importantly for our discussion, where Cape Coral is the largest county by population in the state, almost 800,000 people, that is not in a, quote, major metropolitan area, or is a major metropolitan county, because there are counties in metropolitan areas, in the Jacksonville metropolitan area, in the Orlando metropolitan area, that have fewer residents than Lee County. Like Lake County has half the residents, less than half the residents of Lee County. That's in the Orlando metropolitan area. So, although we are going to talk about Lake County in a future conversation about the exurbs, high density housing in places like Cape Coral have attracted a lot of working class residents. These aren't just retirees from the Midwest, which has been the stereotype of Southwest Florida. And yes, if you drive around Collier, Lee, Charlotte, Sarasota, and Manatee counties, you see a lot of Ohio plates, you see a lot of Michigan plates, you see a lot of Wisconsin plates. But it's also attracted younger people who are in non-professional jobs or are working class people that it's one of the few places they could afford homes in Florida. Now housing costs in Florida have escalated, but these are people who bought their homes before. So it was a ready-made transient demographic that the Republicans went after through superior data, superior identification, voter identification, and Democrats ignored. In fact, for years, Democrats just viewed Southwest Florida as drive-through country or drive-around country. And many had been stunned, many Democratic operatives, and these include some of the consultants in the consulting class that run major Democratic campaigns in the state, have been shocked when I pointed out to them how many people live in Lee County, how many people live in Collier County, how many people now live in Manatee and Sarasota counties. Another place in this region is Northport. Northport is a sort of exurban, high-density housing area connected to Port Charlotte. That's why it's called Northport, but it is actually in Sarasota County. So what it's done is it's skewed Sarasota County, which was always a place that leaned Republicans, but Democrats did well, particularly in Sarasota itself, city of Sarasota itself, into being very Republican. And it's where Ron DeSantis has seen a lot of success for his acolytes running, and why they were able to capture control of the Sarasota County School Board in 2022. The opponents of Moms for Liberty and DeSantis have clawed back a seat in 2024, but overall board majority, which was more or less a liberal majority before 2022, now is a Moms for Liberty majority. I don't even want to call them conservative majority because they're not really conservatives. That has a lot to do with Northport and the Democrats doing very little there through the years. And then you have Collier County, the Naples area. Yes, Naples itself has always been very rich and very Republican. In fact, in the early 1980s, it was the one county that the Republicans could count on in the state. At the time, they weren't winning North Florida rural counties. The 1982 governor's race and 1982 U.S. Senate race, re-election for Lawton Childs, the Republicans were wiped out in the state. But Collier County is a county they carried in both those races. Collier at the time only had about 100,000 people. Now it has significantly more than that. And while Naples continues to be a wealthy Republican area, and the areas along the Gulf Coast are, there are places east of I-75 filling up with working families, working people, a lot of them from the Midwest, like the Southwest Florida stereotype. But for whatever reason, once again, the Democrats aren't engaging them. And another thing I notice in Naples, and in the areas east of Naples, and I'm there a lot, is the number of Latinos in the area. But much like our conversation, or tracking along the lines of our conversation with Fernando Mondi last week, the Democrats don't seem to quite comprehend how to get new Latino voters and engage new Latino voters outside of the core urban areas. So you're seeing Latinos in places like Lake, Polk, Collier, and those sorts of counties, Pasco, vote more like the white populations in those counties, just kind of vote more like the way the county votes in general than like Latino voters would in urban areas. So that's another major concern for the Democrats. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. It's the Exurbs Stupid. We do this series basically once a week until Election Day 2024.